My boss tried to break me. He severely regretted it. The fluorescent lights of Fresh Foods hummed a monotonous tune, a soundtrack to my increasingly miserable existence. I was juggling university with a part-time job at this glorified corner shop, a convenience store clinging to the edge of a sprawling supermarket empire. What made it worse was my health. I had a cocktail of undiagnosed conditions that flared up without warning. Hospital visits were a regular thing, leaving me perpetually exhausted and stuck on light duties to avoid any further injury. That's where Brenda came in. Brenda, the supervisor, with the permanent sneer and the uncanny ability to be exactly where I wasn't needed. She made it painfully obvious she thought I was faking it, a malingering student trying to get away with doing as little as possible. Every request for a modified task, every doctor's note, was met with thinly veiled skepticism and passive-aggressive remarks about work ethic. I usually tried to ignore her. Head down, do the job, get out. But Brenda had a way of burrowing under your skin. And then there was Facebook. We were all connected on there, the small team that kept the Fresh Foods afloat. It made swapping shifts easier, coordinating breaks. Most of us were all right. A mismatched bunch thrown together by minimum wage and mutual desperation. I'd made a stupid, jokey post about some ridiculous customer interaction. A woman trying to return a half-eaten tub of ice cream because it tasted funny. Harmless stuff. That's when Brenda decided to grace me with her digital presence. I remember the notification pinging on my phone, the little blue icon mocking me. Maybe if you weren't always sick, you'd actually have to deal with customers like that. Just a thought, my blood simmered. I told myself to ignore it, but something snapped. I typed back, "Shut the F up, Brenda. You have no idea what you're talking about." I immediately regretted it. I should have known better. But it was too late. The floodgates were open. Brenda unloaded. She went on a rampage, dissecting my health issues, calling me lazy, accusing me of exploiting the system. Then she went lower. Way lower. A friend of mine, Sarah, who's black, jumped in to defend me. Brenda's response was a torrent of racist garbage. Another friend, Mark, who uses a wheelchair, tried to de-escalate the situation. Brenda didn't hesitate to target him too, using slurs and making disgusting comments about his disability. I was reeling. It was like watching a monster emerge from behind her carefully constructed facade of professionalism. I screenshotted everything. Every vile word, every hateful attack. Then I blocked her. I couldn't stomach another second of her venom. My hands were shaking as I drafted an email. I included all the screenshots and fired it off to every manager I could find. Contact information for the store manager, the area manager, even someone in HR whose email address I'd scrounged up from a dusty notice board in the back room. I wrote a brief but pointed message explaining the situation. I then submitted a formal grievance through the official employee portal. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I tossed and turned, replaying the online confrontation in my head. I kept wondering if I had overreacted. Maybe I should have just ignored it. Maybe I had made things worse for myself. The next morning, I was summoned to a meeting. It wasn't a request, it was an order. Be in the store manager's office at 10 a.m. sharp. The email was cold, impersonal. I walked into the office feeling like I was facing a firing squad. The store manager, Mr. Davies, a perpetually stressed man with receding hairline and permanent coffee stains on his tie, sat behind his desk. Next to him was a woman I'd never seen before, immaculately dressed in a dark suit, radiating an air of corporate authority. HR. And then there was the area manager, a slick young guy named Kevin who always smelled faintly of cologne and ambition. The atmosphere was thick with tension. "Mr. Ear." Davies cleared his throat. "Please, sit down." They launched straight into it. They had received my email. They had seen the screenshots. They wanted my account of what had happened. I recounted the events as calmly and objectively as I could, trying to keep the anger and humiliation from creeping into my voice. Kevin leaned forward, This is deeply concerning, to say the least. This kind of behavior is absolutely unacceptable. The HR woman, whose name I learned was Ms. Meering Thompson, remained impassive, but I could see a flicker of something in her eyes. Disgust? Disappointment? I couldn't tell. Then Mr. Davies dropped a bombshell. "It turns out," he said, his voice tight, "this isn't the first complaint we've received about Brenda. Another manager has come forward with allegations of harassment based on his sexual orientation." Suddenly, everything clicked into place. Brenda wasn't just a garden variety bully, she was a repeat offender. And this time, she had gone too far. The next 2 weeks were a blur. There were more meetings, more interviews. I had to relive the Facebook exchange over and over again. It was draining, but I knew I had to see it through. And then, it was over. I walked into work one day, and Brenda wasn't there. Her name was gone from the rota. Her locker was empty. Her presence, which had loomed so large for so long, had vanished without a trace. Mr. Davies called me into his office. "Brenda no longer works here," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "We have terminated her employment." Relief washed over me in a tidal wave. It was over. I had won. Brenda had been at Fresh Foods for years. She had seniority, experience, and a network of connections. But in 5 minutes of hateful keyboard warrior ing, she had thrown it all away. The aftermath wasn't easy. The store felt different without her. Some of the staff were openly hostile, clearly siding with Brenda. But I didn't care. I had stood up for myself and my friends, and I had won. And that wasn't the end of it. A few months later, I finally got a diagnosis for my health problems. It was a long and complicated process, but at least I had answers. I finished university, got my degree, and left Fresh Foods behind. I moved to a new city, found a job I actually enjoyed, and built a life I was proud of. I heard through the grapevine that Brenda was still in the same town, still working a dead-end retail job at another supermarket. She was miserable, isolated, and filled with regret. Sometimes, late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I'd think about her. I'd wonder if she had learned anything from the experience. I hope she had. But mostly, I just felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. I learned a lot of things during my time at Fresh Foods. I learned not to trust everyone, and I learned the importance of standing up for what's right. I also learned not to have colleagues on social media. But the most important lesson I learned was this: people often hand you the rope they'll hang themselves with. You just need to be smart enough to recognize it and pull.